Dear Bramblings, it's your Uncle Luke here. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the Dear Brambling podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate you. Now, today we're going to be diving into part 2 of my conversation with my cousin, Rachel Helten. And we're talking about a dancer's perspective on joy. Now, in this part of the conversation, Rachel and I dive into our most joyful moments as dancers. We then also talk a bit about inclusion and how to be more accommodating to those with differences and exceptionalities. And how can we provide that for future dancers as well. It's actually a really incredible conversation. And I just love Rachel. I love her. I'm so excited. And of course, towards the end of the conversation, we go into the rapid fire questionnaire. And yeah, I just want to give a wholehearted thank you to Rachel for coming onto the podcast and I don't know, just being a pleasure to talk to. And I really hope to have you again on the podcast and we can talk more about anything that fills our heart up. But without any further ado, I think let us saute, or I don't know, what's a fancy, lovely dance jumpy move? I already did jete, let us padasha. Ooh, I'm pulling out my ballet terms. Let's padasha into the next part of this conversation. I'll catch you on the other side. I I was actually just curious though, Rachel, like what were some of the most joyful dance moments in your life?
Yeah, let's talk about it. There's so many.
Yeah.
The first one that comes to mind is when I graduated from SFU and I was looking
Mm.
for three main things. So I wanted opportunities that allowed for altruism, travel, and dance. And so I think I looked up those keywords on Google and I found this volunteer program in Quito, Ecuador. And at the time, I
Mm.
didn't know actually a lot about Ecuador except that it was in the equator. There was the Galapagos Islands and the Amazon was there and it was really magical. They spoke Spanish there. And I found this program where I would volunteer to teach dance at an art therapy center.
Mm.
And my students would have varying abilities. And so I applied and signed up. And part of the program was I had a host family, and then I would take intensive Spanish classes because I would need to teach in Spanish. And it was really daunting
Wow.
because it was definitely one of the first times that I was traveling for that amount of time alone in a country where I didn't speak the language and then living with people I didn't know. Thankfully, I was greeted by this incredible family that feels like family to me today and I love so much. And in the process, I felt really in alignment with my purpose here because I was sharing this love of movement and then also using my kind of skills as an empath to support these beautiful beings. And so some of my students would have the experience of autism or be blind or deaf or the different brain challenges. And it was really humbling for me also to come into the space and always I would come with like this kind of vast plan or outline and then knowing that I would need to be flexible and the things would shift and use my sensitivity to kind of gauge what they would need in that dance
Mm-hmm.
class. And what was just so gratifying being reminded of like the power of dance again, that it's a universal language. So especially when I was really nervous about my Spanish speaking abilities, I could still connect with them really deeply and the people there. And to quote also this brilliant dance artist in Vancouver who I really love and am inspired by. Her name's Justine Chambers. And I'm paraphrasing this quote, but I definitely heard it from her first. But our bodies
Mm-hmm.
are a living archive. And so in that process, I also felt like I was unraveling and unearthing all of these stories within myself and that they were being shared back to me from
Wow.
these beautiful beings. And it was also the trip that I met the love of my life, Ezequiel, in Baños, and we went to Cuyabeno, so the jungle or Amazon, and yeah, a lot of these beautiful moments of being connected to nature. And I was thinking about this question recently, you're like, what can dance do? And in that
Mm.
experience, I saw a lot of what it can do, like forging
Wow.
such deep connections and healing. And yeah, I remember crying so much when I said goodbye to those artists because I was just, they taught me so much. And I think that's really important as a collaborator teacher that when you're teaching, you're also being taught. And so
Mm. Wow. Say that again. Sorry. One more time.
when you're teaching, you are also being taught. And
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, yeah, which is also a paraphrased version of the Phil Collins lyrics from the soundtrack in Tarzan, the song Son of
Mm.
Man, which I listened to every day before I taught. And one of the lyrics is, in learning you will teach, and in teaching you will learn. You'll find yourself beside the ones you love.
Mm.
And I'm getting misty-eyed
Wow.
because yeah, it was just a really life-changing experience. And I definitely felt like in following kind of my soul's desire in that experience, it brought me to these incredible mystical experiences, these deep connections. And yeah, I had these experiences that I had been dreaming about since I was a little girl. And so
Mm.
that's like one of the tops. And then to be honest, any other time that I've been performing growing up in recitals or as a professional dancer now and dancing around the world. Just anytime I'm with people I love and admire, dancing are really happy moments. And there's lots of them. So we could
Mm-hmm.
be here for a couple days.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the first one that came to mind.
Yeah. I've got one that's coming to mind for me. It was at the North American national competitions in Ottawa, and yeah, you know what? I think I was probably at my best in that Irish dance at that time. It was just I don't know. I felt this energy, this otherworldly energy that was just fueling me up, and I felt like I could jump a whole skyscraper sometimes. But what was really fascinating about this one competition was that my first round, which is usually the hard shoe round, it actually went great. It went all according to plan. Actually, I felt super energetic from it because that's one of those dances that drains you so hard because there's just so much involved. It's very intricate. And then I go up for my second round, which is the soft shoe round, which in Irish dance, it's more of this jumpy, sprinty, heady allegro kind of dance that you don't use your arms for. And it was really interesting because I usually have to dance with one other fellow on the stage. And something kind of happened where he kind of cut me off a few times, which is totally normal in competition because it's two conflicting choreographies. And in Irish dance, we use the stage tremendously. Like we were sprinting throughout the whole stage. But yeah, he cut me off a few times in a way that kind of offset me, where I was going into the second step of the choreography and I realized I was on the completely opposite side of the stage. And so I had to essentially think on my feet and pivot in a way, like pivot the choreography. And I had to do it with ease and pretend that it was totally on purpose. And I somehow did it. But I had a moment where I looked off the side of my eye and I saw my dance teacher just being like, he knew, like, oh no, you're at the wrong side of the stage. And I finished the step bowed, got off the stage, and I remember going up to him and I was like, well, what do you think? And he was a dance teacher that I felt was probably one of the most supportive, but didn't really say the most supportive things all the time, if that makes any sense. Like, he kind of felt it through his need to keep putting me into things and keep challenging me, and his feedback rarely came across as hypercritical. So even though he didn't say words like amazing, excellent, and all that, you kind of accepted anyways. So I go up to him like, well, how was it? How would you think? And I swear to God, I think this was the first time I've ever heard him say that. He just said, excellent. That was excellent.
Yeah, buddy.
And it was just having one of those like giddy little moments like, oh my gosh. And yeah, here I already feel myself foreboding my own joy, like we were kind of talking about, because I think even in that same day, I went to go do my third round, which in competitive Irish dance is actually kind of a privilege to do your third round. That means you got the top third in your competition in placement already. And so I got to do my third round. And I think that joy foreboded itself through my dance, because then I went and I completely messed up my last round. I trapped myself on this corner of the stage and my choreography was like not letting me go anywhere else. And I had a brain fart moment and I went from being like fourth in all of North America to ninth because of that one little moment. But regardless, I still got to have that moment of hearing my dance teacher, it was so hard to get a compliment out of him. But he was just like, that was excellent work. And yeah, those are the moments you kind of take with yourself for your life.
Totally. And it makes me think about different people's love languages, because I definitely had certain mentors or loved ones where their love language is more in acts of service or action versus words. And them like supporting you in that way and making these opportunities, or was their way of being like, I believe in you. Even though for me,
Mm.
like one of my main love languages is through words. And if you've ever received a card from me, you know that because they're usually really lengthy.
Yeah.
But I would be craving so much of this external validation through words, especially. And it brought me a lot of pain sometimes and discouragement also when I would continuously look outside myself for that validation or permission to love myself. Where I was like, well, please tell me it was good. Or sometimes this happens in dance a lot where the teacher will be like, watch this person doing amazing. Or they'd be like, watch this
Mm.
person make a mistake as a teaching tool. And it was not always very helpful because then I would get into a state of, oh, either I wasn't chosen, so I'm doing terribly, or I was chosen to show what's wrong. Or I would be, if
Yeah.
I was asked to present, sometimes I would be so confronted with like, oh, I'm in the process of like the butterfly of like learning this. And now I feel like my whole nervous system's disrupted and I forget. And sometimes it would go well,
Mhm.
but I think this pattern of needing to find external validation is really emboldened in the dance community because of competitions. Well, what I believe it to be is also that dance and art, which is so connected to the soul, which is so immeasurable, unquantifiable, is trying to be shoved into a container or system, which is asking us to be judged, objectified, exploited.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so it creates a lot of dissonance. Yeah. And this also binary use of the words of like good or bad, or when it's far more complex than that and far more beautiful, far more nuanced than those systems would lead us to believe. So I think you're
Yeah.
excellent in all ways, goddamn. Even when you forgot choreography, like still excellent.
Mm-hmm. You're really making me think about how sometimes I would feel like a failure when those moments would happen. I like how you're talking about, because I've totally experienced this almost word for word, like when the teacher's like, oh, look at them make a mistake in front of the whole class. Oh,
Look, this is what not
like,
to do. And you're like, oh, daggers to the heart. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Oh, it's just like, ooh, I now feel inherently flawed and now unworthy of belonging, love, and connection. Like, ugh. I'm just curious, like, what does failure mean to you?
Thankfully, it's shifted over time. Failure used to be a really scary thing because I have dealt with a lot of worth issues, worthlessness complex, and insecurity. And so failure sometimes would equate to danger in terms of like I might be rejected from the group and thus I'm not safe. I will be
Wow.
ostracized and made fun of. So when I would fail, quote unquote, I would spiral into this self-loathing. And now for me, I'm softened, thankfully, around this concept and know it's like incredibly valuable and seemingly one of the only ways we learn. Like as a baby's learning to walk, they're not all of a sudden out of the womb walking, or a toddler rather. They're being held and nurtured and learning how to eat and speak and connect. And there's a lot of like, oh, that's not where your mouth is when you're learning to eat. And we don't ever shame a baby for learning in that way. And that's the same way we learn throughout our whole lives. And I can be really hard on
Mm-hmm.
myself, especially when it comes to dance, because it's so important to me and what I identify myself with. And so sometimes in learning a new skill or choreography, and depending on the days, the different vulnerability factors, I might learn it quicker or slower. And I would get so incensed with this spiral of self-loathing that it
Mm.
wouldn't be helpful when I was like, okay, you're going to fall out of that to be able to learn, and your body is going to readjust to gravity and to physics to manage this. And it's through repetition and patience and gentleness that you'll learn. And for
Mm.
me, for example, with learning Spanish as well, that was definitely one of my main hindrances, was this worthlessness complex or insecurity, because I was so afraid of sounding like a fool. I would not ask
Mm.
questions, and then I would get really anxious and I'd be like, oh, I don't know how to say this. When you're learning a language, you're also reverting back to the process of learning a language as a little one, where a lot of it's you
Mm.
have to humble yourself and like, I'm gonna sound silly. Like I'm gonna have to like sound weird and people might laugh and I can laugh with them rather than like, oh, no one likes me. I'm going to be
Mm.
exiled. Yeah, thankfully I've softened more into that. It still shows up like daily, habitually, but
Yeah.
I am more effective lately as being the observer of this and
Mm.
enlisting the inner mother and father within myself to hold that inner child that feels afraid of failing and be like, that's
Mm.
how you learn. It's okay. Like,
Mm. Oh,
yeah, yeah. More things, but
yeah.
continue.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I was thinking a bit about, it was interesting what was coming up was I took a course to learn how to become an EA and just kind of improve my skills as a support worker. And something that comes up was this talk that I think it was a TED talk that I was watching a little while ago. But this researcher for inclusion at UBC, her name is Shelley Moore, and she was talking about how she was helping out at a class, and there's this one boy who would always hide under his desk. And apparently he had a bunch of neurodiversities and exceptionalities, and he was definitely, for a lot of people who maybe don't have the compassion or capacity, was a quote unquote difficult child. And it's really hard for me to say those words because I don't see people with exceptionalities as difficult. I just see them as unique in a way. And I think my conditioning as a support worker has turned me into that. But she was talking about how she was really struggling to connect with this child. And he would most of the time have a dictionary underneath. And he's always just like looking up words and kind of a nonverbal kid. And anyways, she learned that this kid really likes math. And she was very surprised by this whole thing because like, oh, this kid really, he likes math? I didn't think someone with his afflictions could be capable of math. So she got some flashcards and then one day decided to start asking him some questions like, hey, what's 5 + 4? And suddenly she just hear like flip, 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 flip. And his finger would like slam down on the book and he'd point to something. And she's like, okay, this is pointless. I don't know. Let's try another question. What's 3 + 6? Flip, 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 flip. And he'd point to something. And it took her a long time to finally realize that she needed to be kneeling down face level and watching him flip through these pages did she realize that he was flipping through the pages of the dictionary and pointing to the answer of the math question as the page number.
So brilliant.
And so brilliant. And through this moment of meeting this child where he was at, she realized that he's not too autistic, he's not too disabled, he's not too anything. It's actually us who are too unmindful, too arrogant, and too unwilling to meet this person where they're at. And I think that's a big eye-opener for me, because how quick we are to just judge those who are different from us and judge those who aren't matching our talent level or our ability level, to just shoo them away from the group. And yeah, it just really makes me think more about safe spaces again. My God, do I just love learning more about safe spaces and just the importance of it, and how if we're going to create a more inclusive environment for learning and expressing, that we need to learn these skills to meet people where they're at and, check where we're at. Are we shaming people because they're not good enough for us? Or are we maybe stuck in our arrogance, our ignorance? Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, certainly. I feel like a lot of our education systems, institutions at large, and society, like I was expressing before, doesn't make space in honoring these different ways of being, which in different cultures and times in history, it would be seen as, oh, this is like a superpower. This person has a sensitivity, a wisdom, a capacity of understanding existence in life in a different way. And let's celebrate this and let's learn together rather than ostracizing anyone who is different ways of being. And when I was in Ecuador and working with all these beautiful beings with varying abilities, and I learned so much about love and life and connection, and they were so unabashed and unfiltered in their way of loving and expressing that I was like, oh, more of the world needs to be like you and not so closed off or judgmental. And yeah, that's a beautiful story to remember. Remember
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm. No, it's eye-opening, it's shield-breaking, it's heart-opening. When I hear that story, it's also very confronting. I feel like that word's come up a lot, and it's very true. I do also just want to mention that, like, you are not less compassionate or you are not less ignorant if you're also feeling like you're at capacity. I think when it comes to maybe fostering other students or dancers or people into different realms, I think it's also really important to just know where you end and they begin, and what is the distance in which I can love you and them at the same time. So, also creating a safe environment for ourselves if we are to be a facilitator or a teacher. And I think there's a good teamwork, if that makes any sense, like an assessment of like where the teacher and the student is at. And so when I tell that story, it's not to just say like, hey, everyone, you need to be more compassionate to people. It's, where is your compassion to yourself as well, and also respect and love and trust that.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to check in with you. How are you doing now after everything that's been said? Where are you at?
Yeah, really thankful for this opportunity to connect with you. It's inspiring to hear about your experience also and perspectives. And also, I really want to move now, move my body. So that's it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was actually curious, would you be down to do a quick little rapid fire with me to maybe tie off our conversation that I don't want to end, but I feel like it might be coming towards a natural end. But yeah, would you be down for that?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. So, Rachel, what does vulnerability mean to you?
Strength and also vital for connection and growth.
Hmm. Mm. My God, thank you. Ooh. What is your favorite movie or TV show?
I have many, but the first ones that come to mind, at least from my childhood, would be Winnie the Pooh, Tarzan, Peter Pan, and then in later years, Garden State, Wes Anderson films, Across the Universe,
Mm,
Finding Neverland,
mm,
Lord of the Rings.
mm. God dang.
Yeah.
Very magical.
Yeah.
Very magical. Do you have a favorite food?
Definitely ice cream and anything
Mm.
spicy. I love putting a
Oh.
hot sauce on most things.
What about like hot sauce on ice cream?
We could try it. I'm not gonna say no yet. Might as well try everything once.
Right?
Yeah.
Sriracha ice cream.
Yeah.
Let's patent that if it hasn't been a thing. Let's trademark.
Trademark.
What was your favorite trip that you've done in your life?
Well, I talked in length about Ecuador, so that's definitely tops.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will also say when I was in Florence, Italy, doing a dance intensive, and I was working with this artist that was really inspiring to me, Dorotea Sekali, and then hanging out with Essay for one of the first times. So that was really precious
Mm,
to me. Yeah, and basically everywhere I've been, I think has been really soul nourishing in some way. And so, yeah, has
mm,
shaped me to who I am today.
mm-hmm. I'm gonna add one that I haven't written here, but do you have a favorite word?
Ooh, again, I have many. I love words so much. I used to be that kid growing up that when I would read, I would get so much joy about highlighting words I didn't know and then looking up in the dictionary. I think one that I probably used a lot is the first one that comes to mind is ineffable for being like indescribable.
Ooh. Mm,
And it sounds beautiful.
mm. It does.
Yeah.
It really does. I love that. Okay, so if you were to have a dinner party where you could invite three people, living, dead, or fictional, who would they be and why?
So can I say two dinner parties? Maybe they can all be together, but so my Nana Bernice,
Sure.
my Papa Leonard, and my
Mm,
Grandpa Jerry, who have all passed.
mm,
We could catch up and I can hear what's going on in heaven and and then also ask for some guidance and support and maybe dance and hug each other. My Grandpa Jerry,
mm,
I have never met, so I especially want to hang out with him, even though I do in my heart often. And then other dinner party or the same one would be super rad. Would be Jeff Buckley. Just love his
mm,
haunting lyrics and voice and spirit. And Maya Angelou, really inspired by her
mm,
way of being and activism and art and poetry. And then Edgar Allan Poe, I like to get dark and
wow.
stormy, so he really appeals to my macabre fascinations and gothic art. And
Nice.
yeah,
I like those words you're using to describe like why Edgar Allan Poe. It's like, yeah, dark and stormy. Sounds like a nice cocktail, but it also sounds like some words I really subscribe to too. So, mm. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, it's fine. You can get two different dinner parties. Why not?
nice. Or one big one. Yeah, yeah.
Right?
They would be super sweet though
Um,
together.
right. So I didn't actually write this, but something that I have been trying to ask everyone that I can try to interview, and because it's me, but do you perchance have a favorite Pokemon?
Um, Squirtle.
Aw, I love that. Okay.
I used to have a little turtle
Well,
growing up, and then I was like, Squirtle, turtle, and then inside there was like baby turtles. You'd zip up their belly. And,
okay.
yeah,
Oh, aw. You know, I love Squirtle. He's so
so
cute.
cute.
So yeah, do you have any advice that you'd want to give the next generation of humans growing up in the world?
Yes. So the first one I'm going to borrow from Max Ehrman, and then also people that know me know I love this quote because I put it in various places. But this is a quote from Max Ehrman, part of the Desiderata poem for a way of life. So
Mm,
my advice would be for Max is you are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should.
mm,
And Yeah, that's
Mm.
quote has helped me through some really tough times. Oh, and I there's a part missing, but the be gentle with yourself. It starts with. So be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. And so I think it's really, really important to be gentle with ourselves, with one another, remembering how valuable our presence is in life, how priceless, and yeah, trusting the unknown, trusting the universe, and trust that you're being loved. And then some things, other other
Yeah.
things I was just thinking about was go outside. Remember, you are one with all that is. Do all possible to live in harmony with one another and the earth. Too many screens can rob us of our boredom, joy, and imagination. Be in stillness. Find your wisdom from within. And remember, your desires are gifted to you for a reason. Your dreams have merit and are precious. And if you are struggling, reach out. We need each other. You are not a burden. You are a gift.
No, I think, thank you so much. Wow. Hmm. My heart feels all warm. Yeah, I'm just getting like reminders of, you're talking about how one of your values is gentleness. And yeah, I really appreciate the gentleness of your advice there. And yeah, I'm just getting like a random aside thought of how sometimes I'd personally have soft and gentle used as words to weaponize against me. And I really don't like that. I'm a big fan of how you are taking the value of gentleness and like retaking that word as a sign of strength. And I really subscribe to that and connect to that. And thank you so much for being here, Rachel. I really appreciate this conversation, and thank you for being patient with me as my brain shut off a few times during the conversation.
No, you're super eloquent
Um,
and charming.
aw,
And Mercury is in
thank you.
retrograde, so we can blame the planets.
Oh,
Yeah. There's like 6 others in retrograde, I think.
oh, really? I always like to say like Mercury's in the microwave.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Sometimes getting a little too warm. Um, but yeah, thank you so much. Is there any type of like social media or can way people could maybe connect with you if they ever so desired?
Yeah, certainly. I right now have a website that is rachelhelton.com. So just my first and last name. Many people spell it incorrectly. Like that better. So
Me too.
Rachel, and then my last name Helten, like
Mm,
hell without an L, 10, the number 10, not Helton or Hilton.
okay.
And then also at Rachel Helton Instagram, Rachel Helton Facebook. And then I also will be having a new website coming up for kind of more of the healing modalities that I will be sharing. And that is not published yet, but it's going to be
Okay.
cool.
Wow. I'd love to learn a bit more about that. Maybe that'll be the next podcast we do.
That'd be sweet.
But yeah, I'll be sure to try to list those links down in the description. And yeah, thank you again, Rachel, for joining me. I hope it was an okay time.
Yeah, it was super wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. All right, let's stop the recording. Alrighty, my friends. There we go. That is my conversation with my cousin, Rachel Helton. I really do hope you enjoyed, and I hope that you see why I love talking with Rachel. One of my favorite people. I also hope that maybe we have done some perspective shifting on what joy can maybe look like as a dancer, and maybe help cultivate some awareness of what's filling you up with joy. I wanna turn the question onto you guys, my fellow listeners. But what are some of the most joyful things in your life? I want to know. Let me know. You can find my Instagram page at Lucatronosaurus and find the little quote card about Rachel and give us a little comment. What's filling you up with joy these days? With all that being said, though, my bramblings, I hope that there is something in this world that fills you up with so much joy. And, just know that joy is kind of painful. I think that's one of the main things that we were talking about, and how loving something can be both the worst and the best thing at the exact same time. And maybe this conversation between Rachel and I will, maybe it won't fix anything. I don't think it will fix anything. I just hope that it'll help you feel a little bit more seen and understood. If there's anything that you're doing or pursuing in life that fills you with so much joy, but yet you have those moments where it's just like, why does it have to be so hard? Or why do I have to go through this? Why do I keep pursuing and persisting this? Just know it's worth it. Just know that, your Uncle Luke and cousin Rachel, Auntie Rachel, we've been through something like this with our own respective hobbies and loves, and it's just a part of loving something and feeling joy for something. I hope you keep going and know that your pain is worth it. And at some point in the future, maybe one day you'll be like me and you'll tell your story and maybe inspire someone else. Now, with all that being said, my friends, I'm just going to do my shameless plug like I usually do. And if you want to support this podcast in any way, I do have a Patreon. The donation level is only $5. So if you have an extra $5 that you want to spare and want to support content like this, I really would love and appreciate the donation. 100% of the proceeds will be going back into the podcast to maybe pay for some new mics or rental space or whatever may be coming up in the future. And that's it. I'm done. Now, with all that being said, again, I hope everyone is taking a moment to take care of themselves, and I hope you find something in your life that fills you with some joy right now. But I'm going to leave it there, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Bye for now. The Dear Brambling Podcast is a podcast dedicated to my little bramblings, to the next generation of humans growing up in the world, as well as to anyone who might be looking for a little more guidance in their life. It is hosted by me, Luke Benoit. Editing and sound design are by Cedar Picture and Sound, MB Productions, and Hideout Productions. The music that you're listening to is called Curiosity, and it's composed by Matthew Grazier at Grazier Music. The logo was designed by Misaki at Hostess Misaki on Twitch TV. And if you'd like to follow me on any social media, you can do so on Twitch as well as on Instagram at Lucatronosaurus Rex. And to anyone who is listening to the podcast this far in, I just want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I really do appreciate it. I do, however, need to say that this podcast was brought to you for education and entertainment purposes and should not be used as a substitute for actual licensed coaching, counseling, or therapy. If you are experiencing some sort of pain in your life and you need some help, I definitely recommend shopping around for the right coach, counselor, or therapist that is right for you. With all that being said, I really do hope that you're doing something today to take care of yourself, and I do hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.